Welcome back to our weekly installment of the Crypto Den and Collective Shifts joint videos where we go into the technical analysis and fundamental analysis of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and then some major altcoins that are really relevant in the market right now. I'm joined by Cass as always, and we're both back on Australian time zones. So it's good to be back in Melbourne, although it's a bit cold. But we'll check in on the price of Bitcoin as always first, Cass, and I think it has come down since last time we spoke about 8 or 9 days ago.
Yeah, it sure has. So you can see my screen?
Yeah, that's up. Yeah.
Okay, so at the moment, for me, we had this, since we last spoke, we had this bear flag form. It came up and touched the top of this trend line, which then confirmed this trend line. And then we ended up having a nice break of the flag, retest, and then we've come down to this support level at around 27.2. Mm-hmm. From there, we sort of created another little flag. We broke that overnight, and we've had a big wick down to about 26.7. So if you actually draw in the flagpole from the flag and put it where we broke, I'm expecting 26.5 to be hit to confirm the flagpole. Something to note also is that these big wicks here, I am expecting them to be filled up with say candles. So see this big wick here on the 27th of April, that was actually filled by these candles here. So I'm not saying it's going to happen in the next 24 hours, but I do expect price action to move to fill these current wicks up and come down to this 26.6 level.
Yeah, just on those wicks, one thing I would actually want to mention from a fundamental level is something I've been seeing in recent weeks, is that the market depth, or just how liquid a lot of exchanges order books are, has like significantly decreased this like year to date, particularly after like the FTX collapse. So I suppose when you are trading, well, particularly probably the altcoins, but even possibly BTC and ETH, depending on the exchange, you might get instances where you're seeing, some like really like shallow markets where, a huge sell order or a huge buy order can really like move the price and, result in a lot more wicks. That's just something, I did want to note, because it's certainly looking like a lot weaker in the last few months in terms of just how much volumes are going through just your bigger exchanges. So just a point there for people to be aware of.
Yeah, definitely. And, when you see volume, so I'll just take off my CCI and I'll chuck on the volume indicator.
Yeah, good idea.
So when you see price constantly moving up and the volume decreasing, the volume's decreasing, to be honest, that's not a bullish sign for me. That's a bearish sign. So
could you maybe just jump to like the daily or the weekly, Cass, and then I would be interested to see what the volumes are like on this one's OKX. So one of the larger, more well-established, like oldest exchanges out there. I'd be interested to see what the volume sort of has looked like over like recent months. And okay, yeah.
So that's the daily. It's hard to read this up here with.
Oh yeah.
With all my lines.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I'll go to the week. I'll have a look at the week.
Yeah, right. So it's not, at least on OKX, it's not doing too bad. At least the BTC USDT pair. It's definitely at around the highest it's been for like year to date. But yeah, definitely saw like a huge drop off in like the latter half of 2022, just in terms of volume. But No, just
Yeah,
just something I
definitely.
thought to mention. Probably more relevant to the altcoins, but yeah, worth noting.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I'll put my something else I do want to point out on the 4-hour chart is people talk about the death cross and the golden cross on the daily. Something I do note with BTC on the 4-hour is that we have crossed. So the blue line is the 50 EMA and the yellow line is the 200 EMA. So they crossed yesterday, bearish. So when the blue line's above the yellow line, that's bullish. When the yellow line's above the blue line, that's bearish. So it's technically not a death cross, but because it's happened on the 4-hour, I take note of it. I don't look at it on coins where they cross all the time. But if you notice here, the last time we crossed, and that was a bullish cross, was the 15th of March.
Yeah, right. That's definitely notable. That's good spot.
So that's why, to be honest, I'm not expecting big moves up. I'm expecting the bear flag that we spoke about to play out in the shorter term time frames, and that's to about 26,500, 26,600 at least. But I still do have my target of 25K down here.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I think just kind of like for me, at least with Bitcoin, it's just a echoing of what I said last week again, in terms of we've had started 2023 with like 4 consecutive months of green, like all crypto was up as well as Bitcoin for 4 straight months. You rarely ever see that. And, I think we are due for like a month where prices do fall, and it's certainly looking like at least 10 days, 11 days into May, that will be the case. But yeah, in terms of how far we can go down, I think you've done a nice job there, Cass, of at least painting a picture of what could be next, at least for Bitcoin's price. Just as before we move on to Ethereum, probably one thing that was worth noting from a Bitcoin sort of fundamental aspect, that's really been taking up a lot of the conversation in the past week or so is the fees. So just when I send some BTC to Cass, or she sends me some, like we have to pay a fee as part of that. Normally for Bitcoin, it's a really small amount, call it 50 cents to maybe $4 US equivalent, like a transaction fee. But that is like really climbed to this week to the highest it's been in 2 years. What makes fees go up, or what really drives fees? It's really just how many people are using the blockchain at the same time. So then you might ask, how come so many people have been using the Bitcoin blockchain in the recent weeks? A lot of it's come down to these things called ordinals or inscriptions. And to really dumb it down, it's just like NFTs on Bitcoin. I think I did mention them in one of our recent episodes. And then you've also got these things now called BRC20 tokens, which again, they're trying to make sort of these meme coins and all of that on top of Bitcoin. So it's all using Bitcoin and driving up demand to use Bitcoin. And it's just probably something that's just fundamentally important or worth noting, because it will sort of play into some of those altcoins that we do highlight in this episode. But yeah, something to take note of there before we move on to Ethereum.
No, that's really, really interesting, Matt.
Yeah, especially in these market conditions, it has surprised me. So it's up towards sort of the fee levels you would see in a raging sort of bull market. So yeah, definitely thought I'd mention it.
No, good. Okay, ETH. I really don't like ETH at the moment. It's not as transparent as Bitcoin for me. So I do believe, I've said this before, I'll look at both, and generally one or the other will tell me the direction in which I think they're going to go. At the moment, it's Bitcoin. ETH is ETH had that fundamental news that came out a few weeks ago. So I think that's sort of not messed with my TA, but it's not giving me a lot at the moment. So what I'll just mark some levels out through here. So daily we do have this wick. I'll show it on the 4 hour. Got 2 levels there. Okay, something interesting to note with ETH also is that the EMAs have crossed bearish. So I'm not saying we won't move up a bit. I'm not saying that at all. That's, that's generally what we do. We come down, we move up, we go down, we move up. So, but we do have this, once again, we do have this big wick on the 4 hour. So I do expect this to be cleaned up with candles. So I do expect us to come, that's daily. So I'll just have a look.
That's between what, 17, 1780 and 1840, something like that.
Yeah. We've got this sort of zone between 1770 and 1790. I do believe we will come down and touch in here. Whether we drop below or bounce, we'll be looking for reversal signs when we come down here. I'll draw that in for the time being because it's valid, my sloping trend line. Yeah, so we might play around in this circle, in this triangle, with ETH for a while, but I do like the look of Bitcoin more. It's telling me more. Yeah,
no, it's really really clear after going through both. Yeah, how much more signal I suppose Bitcoin's providing. Even to my sort of untrained eye as a trader or anything. No, I think that's a really clear picture of the difference between the two. Was there anything on the daily sort of notable?
Just having a look at the daily now. It would be good. So I've just done fibs from this low wick down here, which is about 1370 up to the local high, which is about 2132. So a good, nice, healthy retracement would be at least to the 618. And as you can see, I can even put a trend line, support line through there, and it's got some nice support through there. So we'll see what happens when we come down to this grey box at around 1780. See if we hold and bounce, or see if we break through and continue down. But that's very basic for ETH at the moment.
Yeah, as I said, I think I said last week, sometimes, as you said, when you need to see which one leads the other, it's probably an incorrect move, or even, a bit of a foolish move to look too closely into ETH if there's so many signs pointing that BTC is like probably going to be the one that moves the most next, and that would probably undo a lot of the levels and all that on ETH. If that does play out, of course, there's always examples of things we can't control, or external events that might all of a sudden drive the price of ETH like significantly higher or lower. But I guess there's no point really analyzing ETH too deeply if you're not getting too much of a read from it.
No, and I'm not.
Yeah,
much prefer BTC at the moment.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Just to wrap up ETH there, similarly to Bitcoin, it is actually, again, the cost of transacting on Ethereum is has reached like they call it gas fees on Ethereum, which is really just how much does it cost to perform a transaction on Ethereum, and that has reached heights that are really, again, reminiscent of of like a bull market, which again, you might be wondering, like, why is that the case? It's a lot like, it sounds stupid, but a lot of it is down to meme coins. So the likes of PEPE that we discussed last week, they've still been raging on in the past like 8 or 9 days since we last spoke, and so people are happy to, you know, pay 50 to 150 sort of US dollars equivalent in fees if it means that they can still make some profit, which has been the case, and that's why gas fees are still so high. So again, like, people are calling that, you know, is it becoming unusable? I don't think that's the correct way to look at it, because people are still using it. But I suppose the better question to ask, you know, how much of a bad look is this on Ethereum when it takes such little, in all things considered, such little rise in activity, or all of a sudden this new trend takes off, and then it basically prices out, again, the majority of the population, really, from being interested in using Ethereum. And even the other apps that are built on Ethereum. So if you've got a game on Ethereum, for example, now all of a sudden they have to suffer, and their users have to suffer, because you've got this other category, meme coins, that are really taking off. And all of a sudden, all these other apps that are on Ethereum have to sort of cop the higher fees. So it's just been, so it surprised me, to be honest, how long it's continued this really like fervor and demand for meme coins, given the high gas prices. I've been surprised people are still willing to fork out that much in transaction fees.
Me
again,
too, to be honest.
yeah, I know, it's a lot. Like, not only like to buy it, but then when you're selling it, you know, it can, for a lot of people, that's about like 200 to 300 US dollars in transaction fees, like, is not uncommon to see in the past couple of weeks, which is, yeah, in Aussie dollars, it's sort of, you know, around 350 to 450 Aussie dollars just in fees, which is just insane.
It's
And
crazy,
it
absolutely
really
crazy.
is. It's crazy. It's just a sign of how much probably profit people are making. And then, as we said last week, the story of people making profit is probably driving people to try to speculate. And a lot of them will end up losing money. If the token price, even if the token price rises, they might still actually lose money after fees. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's a pretty wild times, again, in just like a deep bear market, to see this happening.
yeah, definitely. I will just touch on PEPE, seeing we spoke about
Yep. How's that
this
been
one
going?
last week.
Yeah.
So fibs from this level, I'm not going to count all the zeros, but from 85693
Yeah.
to the top, which was 449039. We've had a huge impulse move up, and we're sort of escalating down. Got a little bear flag in here that has now broken, and I'd be looking, if you want to trade this coin, I'd be looking for reversal signs on this support line, which is 131874. In between there, which is also the 886. So it is a good level, a good support level. And in between there and the 786, which is 163242. So anywhere in between there, you get a nice reversal sign. So some bullish candles or a bullish divergence or something like that, I'd be looking to take along. As long as Bitcoin doesn't absolutely poo herself,
Yeah.
this should play out. But we'll see. But it is following TA at the moment, which is good. It hasn't had any stupid pumps since the first one.
Yeah. Okay.
So we'll see what happens when we come in between the 886 and the 786 and this nice support level through here.
Yeah, interesting. No, thanks for that. I think you did highlight like a bullish flag when we talked last time. And I think that actually did end up playing out
It
um,
did. Yeah, it
after
did.
like in a big way.
It
But
was
yeah,
on
so
the,
no, to see it sort of performing in a way that's like consistent with other sort of like TA, um, surprised me.
I think it was here. Was it here?
Yeah, it was probably like
That was the
May.
flag.
Yeah, I
And
think
then
that was it.
we double topped, we came down, and then we just took
Yeah,
off. Or was that it? It was, yeah. The flag I pointed out did play out. So,
yeah. Oh, nice.
but it was a hard one. Like we could have,
Yeah,
yeah, could have done anything.
yeah, exactly. Um, no, nice. I think yeah, we'll move on to Blur. There's not too many updates. Probably Pepe is just like it's gone on other exchanges, got listed on some bigger exchanges, which is probably what really rallied the price. My question now would be, yeah, like what else? Like there isn't really too many bullish catalysts left, like that would really cause price to like rally significantly. Like you would have probably a Coinbase listing would probably be the last major exchange to do it. And then maybe something, again, as stupid as it sounds, you would get like an Elon Musk tweeting about it, you know, whether accidentally or deliberately, would probably be those two things that I could imagine. Otherwise, yeah, I think in a month or so, it'll probably be like something that isn't really talked about that much. But you know, I might be proven wrong, have been many times in the past, particularly when it's, you know, these meme sort of ones that are hard to predict. But we'll move on to Blur here now. So that's the token of a basically an NFT marketplace. It does some other things, but it's a website or an app you go to just buy and sell NFTs. They launched their token, you know, pretty recently, like earlier this year. And they've actually overtaken sort of OpenSea. So OpenSea was by far the biggest. It was like it had a monopoly over the NFT market. It's where everyone went to buy and sell. Blur came out like late last year and has done an actually incredible job, like to be honest, in stealing OpenSea's market share. And here we are a few months later, and Blur's actually like is the most popular place to buy and sell NFTs. That's probably just a bit of an intro to what it is, but I know we did get a request to cover this one, Cass. So I'll hand it over to you to share what you're seeing.
Okay, so the first thing I will point out is this huge wick when it got listed on OKX,
Yeah.
which topped out at $8.35. So I do like to say that wicks get filled. Do I think this will happen soon? Probably not. Probably not until the next bull market. But it is something to note. But in the opposite direction, this big green candle down here. So this is on the daily. The green candle starts at 0.1066. It's been sort of half filled with price coming down to this structure at 0.4393. But as you can see on the daily, not a huge amount of data, but on the daily, we are sitting on support. So if we do break this level of support, we will go down, in my opinion, to 0.1084 before, well, and we'll see what happens there. You know, just because this is the current bottom for Blur, if Bitcoin does, well, if the crypto market, you know, goes further down, it will make new lower lows. But looking at short-term movements, so the 4-hour, we are creating this wedge, this flag. The MACD actually looks like we could turn red soon. I would like another hit up to here, up to this top trend line, and the 50 EMA at about 0.5263. I think that I'll just make this line red. I think that would be, it would, I'll pretty much confirm the flag, and then we can head down to this support level at 0.4408. So short term, would like to see another little push up to Blur to hit the 50 EMA and then continue down. I will just point out, so notice on the 4 hour how the EMAs here have crossed 1, 2, 3, 4 times in the last month. This is when I won't really take a lot of notice of which one's on top of each other. They can be used as support and resistance levels, which is really good too. Like, as you can see, we came up here and hit the 200 EMA, so that acted as resistance. But what I mainly use them for, I won't use them on Blur because they've crossed too many times for me. But overall, would like to see another push up before we come back down to this support line. Double bottom, we might make a H formation and then continue up. Have to wait and see.
Yeah, nice, Cass. I think from a fundamental level on Blur, like, am I interested in buying it, or even oh well, I don't hold any, but if I was holding it, I'm personally like not interested whatsoever at buying this for like a long-term hold at the moment. The main reason being just because of how risky NFTs are compared to, well, definitely compared to BTC and ETH, but even compared to like major altcoins like Solana and Avalanche and whatnot. I just think like that's okay that it's more risky, but I think in the state of the market that we're at, the current like market cycle where still everyone's like looking to BTC to like lead the way, I just don't think it makes that much sense to buy Blur here when like we don't even know if BTC like could be going lower. I still think like Blur will be like, you know, hovering around at these prices. Like worst case, it'll be like more or less at these prices in like a few months time. But my hunch is that it'll keep going lower. Like a lot of the alts have actually been doing worse than Bitcoin and ETH this year so far, which has been interesting. And just from a more of an overview of NFTs, like they've really suffered over the past like year or so as well. So like, again, once I see, maybe if I saw signs of recovery from NFTs, like this is a good way to probably get exposure to the performance of the NFT market, which again is showing no signs whatsoever of bottoming and actually like starting to improve. I think once you did see signs of that over the course of like multiple weeks, then Blur would get more interesting like to myself. But at the moment, I don't really see, doesn't really entice me, I suppose, in terms of that fundamental sort of investing.
Yeah, I would probably agree.
Yeah, it's a lot of risk with it, but you could, you know, risk sometimes it can pay off. But I don't really see any need to get in on it at this stage.
Yeah, especially when we can see more downside to come.
Cool. But speaking of probably, some of those major altcoins, we've actually got two to close that are both in sort of the more popular or higher market cap altcoins. And we wanted to bring on Litecoin this time. So a ticker for that is LTC, probably one of the oldest cryptocurrencies out there, like behind Bitcoin.
One of the OGs.
Yeah, one of the OGs. So as Cass sort of charts that up, I'll just explain a bit about why, I suppose from the fundamental aspect, I wanted to include it in this week's sort of episode is, again, because of what I've been talking about with Bitcoin and Ethereum. They're significantly high transaction fees. And Litecoin, it really honestly is just a copycat of Bitcoin, really. Like it just does most of the same stuff. They kind of just like brand it as the silver to Bitcoin. If Bitcoin's gold, Litecoin's silver. I personally have no interest at all I don't hold any. I would never invest in any. I think it's a pretty dead project, like, to be honest. But in times like these, in like its market cap is still in the top, I think the top 30 or so. And in moments, the only reason I brought it up is because in moments like these, this could be a situation where it does get a bit of traction. Why is that? Because people will use Litecoin a lot of the time when the fees are like significantly high, particularly on Bitcoin. So if they wanted to transact, from CoinSpot or something, and they wanted to bridge over to Binance, they might buy some Litecoin with their Australian dollars, send that over to Binance or something, and then trade that back to Bitcoin. That was definitely something that was really popular when I first got involved with cryptocurrencies in 2017, because Bitcoin then had really expensive transaction fees. So the demand for Litecoin in that sense was really going up at that stage because because people, I guess, want to circumvent the higher fees on Bitcoin. And then another reason why I think, it deserves at least, I suppose, some attention from traders is because, again, because it's basically a copycat of Bitcoin, it also means that Litecoin has like its halving cycles. The timing of those halvings isn't the same as Bitcoin. I think it is every roughly 4 years, but they're actually not at the exact same time. So Litecoin's halving actually is occurring in August of like this year. So I think it's in around 100 days or so. So again, the amount of LTC that is given to miners as their rewards for every block, same with Bitcoin, that's going to fall by 50%. So you might start to get a bit of narrative, a bit of headlines, some more like speculation, or just, I guess, focus or attention on Litecoin in the next, call it 3 months or so before that August halving. So I suppose that the Litecoin halving combined with the high fees on Bitcoin and Ethereum, like particularly Bitcoin, if they are going to stay high over the next like few weeks, Litecoin, I think, is one that I think traders should at least have on their short list and on their watch list, because it could be something that sort of gets some traction. That's at least like something that I thought of as I was sort of preparing for today's episode.
Yeah, it's a very good point. And it is good to trade because there is movement. It's not it's not just a stagnant coin that doesn't move much at all.
Okay, yeah.
So I don't.
It would have good. It typically has good liquidity too, like good liquidity, because it is such an older sort of cryptocurrency as well.
Yeah, definitely. So we actually had, so our bottom so far for LTC is about $40, I believe. $40 back in June 22. Ultimately, I would like us to come back down to that level, but on the smaller time frames, I'll just want to have a look at this quickly. Okay, I know it might be a bit confusing, but I've got 2 sets of fibs on my screen. So I've just done a fibs from the bottom of the trend line here at about $65 up to the latest high, which is about 103. And it's actually put a good fib level at this support level at about $74, which is also around the 786 level. So personally, I would like to see, get rid of that other one. I would like to see a push down to that area. So I'll just mark it out a bit better. So the MACD looks good to cross bearish soon. We have crossed bearish on the 4-hour on the EMAs as well. So this area around $74 is where I'm looking to see if we bounce or we hold this level. and then we can make a decision from there. If you are looking to short it, it's a bit, I'm not going to short it. I'm going to see what happens when we get to that 74 level, but you could possibly short it. You'd need confirmation once price gets there, but at around $83. But because leverage is quite tricky, we'd need to confirm it at the time if we get there. But that would also, that hits a level of resistance, hits 50 EMA and the 786 fib level. So could be an interesting area if we hit up there. Once again, it's not a huge wick on LTC on the 4 hour, but there is one, and it comes down to 75. So I do think we are at least coming down there. But I would like, well, I said 74. So this area in between, I don't know, I'll say 72 and $75 is where my pink circle is roughly located. But yeah, that's LTC at the moment for me.
Yeah, nice. We'll see how that goes over the next few days leading up to that pink circle there.
Let's see, that's not confirmed. Yeah, we'll move on.
Yes, yeah, and again under that similar sort of reasoning, I think Solana is one to watch, and I suppose at least personally from an investment standpoint, when you compare it to something like Litecoin, I would much prefer investing in something like Sol, which has been one I've actually had on my short list for this year. I feel like I'm getting pretty close to pulling the trigger, at least on a long term sort of investment for a number of reasons. But I suppose the main reason why I wanted to bring it up today was, again, it's really, Solana is really, I suppose, like the spotlight is going on it in a good way, I think, in the last few weeks, because while yes, we've talked about Bitcoin high fees, but when you're comparing Solana, that's sort of irrelevant. Like what I'm really wanting to focus on here is with Ethereum's really unsustainable, like high fees. I think Solana really has a big opportunity to really, again, gain some more users and sort of highlight to people just how cheap it is to use. This is under the assumption that Ethereum fees like stay high for the next few weeks or so. So it assumes that the meme trend is going to sort of continue, or at least there will be a trend where people are sort of like really demanding to use Ethereum. So Solana, has a lot going for it, which I think I've talked about in another episode. But really it's designed differently to Ethereum. So the likes of even Bitcoin as a blockchain, Litecoin as a blockchain, Ethereum as a blockchain, they all sort of work. They all have the same sort of mechanism when you want to transact on them. So it's really like there's an analogy really to just like a coffee shop or something. Like if a lot of people want to go to this coffee shop, that's a very Melbourne example of me, Cass, actually. If they want to go to a cafe and just say it's a really popular one, there's only so much space in the cafe. They've only got one or two barista machines or whatever. They can make the coffee. It's tons of people wanting to come in and buy coffee. They've got to queue up. They've got to queue up 20, 50, 100 people if it's out the door. And that's just kind of how it is, given there's those restrictions of, only one or two sort of coffee machines. So this is called, in blockchain, this is called a mempool. So it's MEM pool. That's short for memory pool. And really, when you wanted to submit a transaction on a blockchain like Litecoin or Bitcoin or Ethereum, your transaction will at first go in the mempool. And if there's just not many people wanting to use that blockchain, it'll get picked up pretty quickly by like the miners and whatnot to include it in their next block that they mine. With something like Solana, they don't even have a mempool at all. So they've designed their sort of fees differently, and the way I suppose the blockchain works to really just keep it simple. They've just scrap the idea of even having this queue mechanism in terms of a mempool. And this allows them in some other ways as well. It allows them to have like significantly cheaper fees. So you can actually go with like $1 or $1 Australian. You can send that to, well, the Solana wallet, which the most popular one is called Phantom. And you can, amazingly, actually, when you're talking about Ethereum, amazingly with Solana, you can use that $1. You can go on, you can move it to like an NFT marketplace. You can buy a really cheap NFT. The fees will be like extremely low, like just like 1 cent or something. Then you can, move that $1 across and do some other things. Like in Ethereum, you wouldn't even be able to get off the block. You wouldn't even be able to get you wouldn't even be able to do one transaction at the moment with $1 in your wallet. So again, there's trade-offs. Like, why you might be wondering, okay, why isn't Solana then just the main blockchain? If that's the case, they do have a lot of drawbacks in terms of performance history and whatnot, and there's probably some more centralization concerns and whatnot. But I suppose for the focus of this week's episode, I suppose I just want to draw some attention to it, because if this high fees continue on Ethereum, you could actually see some nice traction and activity come towards Solana, which ultimately would be reflected, like fundamentally, it should be reflected in the price of Sol sort of going higher. So I'll hand it over to you, Cass, for Solana to take it home as our last one for this episode.
Okay, so Solana, you can say that we are just ranging here, which is accurate on the daily time frame. So that's between sort of $17 and $26. But there is lots of trading that can be made within ranges. But looking at it on the daily, I see a bit of a channel flag happening here. What I do like is the MACD looks to be turning bullish soon, and currently there is a bullish divergence forming as well. So if I go like that and I come down here, so there is a bullish divergence forming there. So that's on the daily. And there is this support level. So we've come down and hit the 618, which, as you can see, holds as a support level at around $19.70. I believe we will either bounce here and break out, or we will come down to this 786, this other level of support down here at about 1760. So there's not much in it really, only a couple of dollars. But if you spot, just look for the best entry. If you leverage, your entries have to be pretty much on point. So I will keep in mind, well, I'm going to watch this. I'm going to see what happens over the next probably 24 hours. If we do break this 618 level at $19, I do believe we will come down to, the 1770 mark, and then, a double bottom off there and a nice push up would be awesome. So that's what I'd be looking for.
Yeah, nice one. I think, yeah, it's probably different to our previous episodes. There hasn't been too many like upcoming, I suppose, short-term catalysts like with dates. I suppose these ones are more focused on, writing, like noticing certain trends that are happening and then like, paying attention to that. Probably just to wrap up there is like a date. I suppose Lido is one that we've talked about in the past. That's the LDO token. So probably just something they are this week, I believe, or at least in the next 7 days, are going to be, upgrading to Lido V2. And that will allow a lot of people to withdraw the ETH that they've got staked with Lido, or at least the validators with Lido. So you'll get probably a lot of movement within the amount of ETH staked on Lido. Will start moving around, or at least a significant part of it will probably start moving around. that could sort of, dictate or drive a bit of the price of the LDO token. I think because it's a bear market, I don't think I don't think it will, but I suppose what I was wanting to say more so was just there is a lack of probably upcoming dates at the moment, which is just part and parcel of a bear market, really. Yes, there is some dates coming up for projects, but like, if I'm being honest, they're nothing they're nothing to write home about, or like they're nothing that I feel confidently would actually move the price either up or down. So
Yeah.
I will keep an eye out for ones, but that's just probably a note there to end in terms of how we've done differently our videos in the past. But I'll keep an eye out for sure.
Sounds good.
Alrighty, but yeah, that brings us to a close for this week's episode. We'll be back a bit earlier next week, and we'll get back onto normal scheduling. But until then, keep watching the charts, and yeah, have a good week, everyone.
Have a great week, and thanks for tuning in.